What's up, everybody? We are back. John Delarose here, the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction. It's been a while since we did an Epic Collection review. I've had an interesting reading week. I've a really interesting reading month. I've really diversified a lot of what we've been reading, going back to some random old DC stuff. Of course, a lot of Ditko stuff, as you guys have probably seen, and some Supergirl stuff. So we haven't had as many Epic Collections as before, but I'm still trying to go through at least one a week as we're going through here. And we read the Avengers Operation Galactic Storm this week. This is a crossover, and I've read a lot of the crossovers on the channel from the 90s so far that have been released. We did Maximum Carnage, the big Spider-Man crossover, of course. X-Force Executioner's Song a couple weeks ago. And now Operation Galactic Storm. So how does this compare to those two? Very interesting. This is 1992, so about the same era. It covers Avengers 345 to 347, Avengers West Coast 80 to 82, Quasar 32 to 34, Wonder Man 7 through 9, Iron Man 278 and 279, Thor 445 and 446, Captain America 401, and material from Captain America 389 to 400. So a lot of different titles in this, and all of them do just cover this Operation Galactic Storm throughout the whole deal. And what happens is it starts with Rick Jones having a weird dream that something's going on in the middle of Captain America. This is Mark Gruenwald's Captain America. Very solid stuff. Who did the... Rick Levins did the pencils on this. Not my favorite artist. I mean, you see you get some funky faces and all that, but the layouts are fine. And so it tells a pretty good story. And this robot shows up and tries to capture him for some odd reason. The reason turns out to be that he had a thing with Captain Marvel back in the day where Captain Marvel would show up and he would take his place in the negative zone and they'd hit their wrist spans together, and that would be how they get there. And it continues into Avengers West Coast, where they go after Rick Jones and find this robot, and things just start to slowly escalate. They send Quasar after the ship that's taking off. Mark Gruenwald's also writing Quasar at this time, and we got Greg Capullo's art, very early art, not very Greg Capullo stylistic at this point, but still pretty beautiful stuff. Very neat look. And the Quasar stuff's actually some of the best in the volume. It makes me want to go through. I know there's a big, thick trade Quasar, which comes after a small Quasar Classic volume. So I might pick that up because this stuff's really good. And he basically finds out that there's this whole fight going on with the Kree and the Shi'ar Empire, who are two of Marvel's premier alien races. And that shows up in Wonder Man, where this Kree agent guy ends up getting the wristbands, and we have a fun little fight where he knocks his wristbands together and he replaces himself with Rick Jones, and Wonder Man has to deal with that, and then he pops back out and back in. Very unique fight. Very fun issue to start things out. And then we actually get into the Avengers proper, where we have Bob Harris writing, Steve Epting penciling. We have the Chase Masterson Thor going on at this point in the universe. So the art's a little all over the map, and the Avengers are kind of get together and figure out what's going on with this. And then we learn that in the Shi'ar realm of things, Deathbird is a very 90s, almost Liefeld style pinup. We learn that she's trying to push that war between the Kree and the Skrulls to new heights. We get into Iron Man now, and we have Len Kaminsky on the writing and Paul Ryan doing the penciling. So Iron Man actually has some of the best pencils out there. I love Paul Ryan's work. As you can see from the space station here, that they show up on the space station as part of the Avengers, and the Supreme Intelligence of the Kree is directing things with a big fight. Of course, lots of big fights to come. Very neat use of Iron Man's schematics back here, and Iron Man's costume is very different at this point in time also. Interesting stuff. But we get some nice fights, and eventually what happens is the Avengers split into two teams where they are... I can't really go over all of it too much because it's just too big and long of a storyline. But they split into two teams, one going to the Kree, one going to the Shi'ar, trying to figure things out. And Captain America and Iron Man company are in with the Kree. Iron Man's got this like cloaking device sort of set up. And then there's some Avengers West Coast who are left back home. And they've got some prisoners who then escape. And it still continues to build into this interesting galactic saga. And eventually, as it builds, we find out that there is like this warp gate in our solar system, and every time it's being used, it's bringing our sun closer to having solar flares and going nova and things like that. So very dangerous for humanity. And we got to get it stopped. And they go to the Shi'ar, and they're kind of just left there. And they have to fight some folk, of course. And then on the other end, we have the Star Force of the Kree up against the Avengers who have escaped. And we have some more fighting. And it turns out the Supreme Intelligence is actually setting up this weird situation where he's hoping the Kree Empire will die for his plans, which is very bizarre. And we'll find out what they are a little bit later. So it keeps escalating. It turns out there's this like bomb that the Shi'ar have that's going to blow up the entire Kree galaxy, and it ends up on this craft right here that is actually controlled by Skrulls. So the Skrulls are actually involved in this whole galactic conflict also, and this is the team that's at the Shi'ar, and they finally meet the Queen there. And every side always thinks the humans is on the other side. And there's always these like fights that don't need to happen, but are gratuitous anyway, because that's how comics work. And we're into 15. I mean, this is a 20-part story. It's crazy. Crazy amount of stuff. And this is Captain America 400. And I thought it was weird that the 400th issue of Captain America actually was in the middle of this crossover. And apparently this was supposed to be a giant, oversized issue, and we only get the Operation Galactic Storm part. And it actually goes into one of those, and I hate this about 100th issue storylines, or, milestone books at this point. And this always happens as milestones books now. So this is early for doing this, but he goes up and just fights all of his classic villains, and it turns out it's just like this dream caused by the intelligence is how it ties into the whole book. And I really hate those, like, sort of like, here's all the villains and all your friends, and, we're going to show it all to you because this is a 100th issue, and we gotta clap for the milestone. I'd rather them just actually tell a story, and that doesn't happen a lot in milestone issues for some reason. It's annoying. Oh, well. So that was the weakest issue of the entire volume. And here we go. The Kree Star Force must die, and the Star Force show up to assassinate the Queen of the Shi'ar. Scree. That's pretty funny. And turns out they discover the Skrulls are involved, and they got to stop this bomb, and it keeps going. We get some cool cosmic stuff. This is in Quasar. Get some really beautiful cosmic art by Greg Capullo. Really beautiful. I enjoyed that. I think the Quasar issues are honestly probably the best ones in this. And we finally end up dealing with the whole deal. It turns out here there's this like negative zone bomb in the starship, and they're going to set it off anyway. And here we go for the big conclusion. It goes off, and for some reason, because everybody survives who's an Avenger, and it's very bizarre. And almost all of the Kree die. And that is the deal. I guess they are decimated. And the Supreme Intelligence wanted this to happen because he wants them to evolve and grow stronger. And this decimation will cause them to evolve, I guess, in their estimation. So he's playing a long game with rebuilding the Kree, who he thinks are at an evolutionary dead end. Very bizarre ending. So we have this whole action-packed thing. The Avengers finally convince the Shi'ar they're doing the right thing. Looks like they're going to save the day, and then they kind of just don't save the day after 20 issues. So it's kind of a letdown at the end, unfortunately. But it's a very impactful story, I guess. I just like the heroes being heroes and solving things, and I think I would have had that happen rather than a sort of Pyrrhic victory where, well, I guess we're alive and humanity's alive, but all the Kree are dead. It just doesn't feel right, and they then fight each other, and Iron Man goes to take down the Supreme Intelligence, even though Captain America says, no, we do not kill. That's always a bizarre superhero argument. It's like, why are you guys just allowing this guy to just like live, even though he's, murdered billions of people? That doesn't make any sense. And Iron Man knows that doesn't make any sense, but this sets the stage for a lot of Captain America Iron Man fights later on. And they end up killing him, and then they kind of regret it. It's very bizarre all the way around at the end. Don't like the conclusion, as I mentioned. But up until the conclusion, I mean, this is like a rip-roaring action adventure, and I barely could put this down because this is just such exciting stuff. They really did a great job. Now, Captain America starts to doubt himself in this denouement, and, he's like, maybe I should step down, and they do the whole, Cap, we need you. And Iron Man actually goes to a bar. Doesn't drink, of course, but he tells Cap, I'm sorry. Let's do things right and be pals. Same with U.S. Agent, who've been fighting with Cap during the course of this also. So interesting denouement, that sort of nihilism of Cap and thinking his ways are outdated and all that. I don't love that when I see that in Captain America either. I'm not going to lie. I just feel like Captain America should be an optimistic book, and I hate it when they go into this like quote unquote realism in order to like make the drama happen. But that's the end of the volume. Other than that, I would say again the Captain America 400 issue was also probably the weakest issue of the volume because it just had this like dream fight, which I don't like also. And beyond that, all of it was pretty excellent. I was very surprised at how much I enjoyed Wonder Man. I never anticipated reading Wonder Man. Quasar, again, was the highlight, and that really makes me want to read a lot more Quasar, which are two characters who really don't get a lot of discussion. So very interesting stuff on that end. Something to learn as a comics, what you're interested in. And overall, this is a pretty solid crossover. I mean, it kept, every issue kept the plot going. It added something interesting for 20 issues. Now, in Maximum Carnage, that was not the case. I mean, you'd have like 4 or 5 issues in the middle where it just seems like nothing happened, and they just drew that out for way too long. And same with the X-Force Executioner's Song. Kind of went the same way, where it was just meandering and convoluted. This didn't have that. This was very tightly done. And I appreciate that from the writing standpoint. Even though I didn't like the ending personally, they had a very tight plot, and it did build. And it worked the whole way through, which is a huge monumental task for a 20-part crossover with this many writers and artists involved. Absolutely amazing feat. Just from that perspective and reading this, it is worth it from that perspective. Now, overall, I would say this is better than your average comic. There's a lot of, even though, again, I didn't like the ending and I had a couple quibbles with a couple issues in there. Overall, for this many issues and this many writers and all this, it was very fun. And like I said, I couldn't put it down because of the just breakneck fun pacing of it. I really enjoyed the Kree and the Shi'ar and all of the elements in between. All the character drama in between the characters in the Avengers also were a lot of fun. Thor finding his way because he doesn't really feel like he belongs. Vision being a weird robot and not really remembering his humanity. I mean, there's some cool stuff going on here with the Avengers at this point in their timeline. That is really neat stuff. So I give it an 8 out of 10 overall. Enjoyable read. This is really good. I enjoyed the last volume of Avengers, which was number 21, The Collector's Obsession. And that one had a smaller crossover, which actually was very good and was very cosmic also and kind of paved the way for this. And that one had a bunch of filler issues in it also. But this one had no filler. It was just wall-to-wall breakneck awesome action all the way through. If you like the Avengers, this is definitely a good storyline to get. All right. Hit that like and subscribe button, everybody, and let me know what you thought of this if you're reading this and If you enjoy their Epic Collection reviews, I want to hear from you. And we will be back soon.